I recently received an email from Michelle, and she had attended one of my performance camps and wanted me to elaborate on why I'm not a big fan of fixed exercise equipment. Let me elaborate. When you are sitting down into a piece of exercise equipment, a majority of the time the machine does allow some minute level of adjustments, but unfortunately the machine does not take into consideration any kind of biomechanical limitations that you may have. Depending on where you're at as an individual, you may have incurred some kind of injuries as a younger athlete. As a younger person, maybe you had a slip and fall accident in the ice when you were a kid, when you were sledding, or maybe you had an athletic specific injury to your shoulder or to your knee or to your hip. Well, unfortunately, the machine does not factor in that kind of physical limitation. So what it does is, and I'm just going to use just for the sake of the ease of video, if you sit down and you do a seated bicep curl, a lot of times your arm may not be long enough for you to actually get to where the handles are at, for you to actually isolate the bicep without cheating. If you're not tall enough and you find yourself leaning forward and you're like crouching over the machine, well, now what you're doing is you're using other muscles in your body to simply do a bicep curl. What's the point of that? When I pick up an individual dumbbell and I simply move it from my side up to 90 degrees, I know that I'm putting 100% consistent load on the head of the biceps. Biceps run up into the shoulder, long head of biceps inserts up in the shoulder. If my goal is to isolate the bicep, both heads of the muscle group, and I want to get the muscle to become as strong as possible in the shortest amount of time while removing the risk of an injury, I will always go with free weights over a machine 100% of the time. Now, is there a time and a place? Sure. If you're traveling and you go to a hotel and that's the only thing that's there to do bicep curls, I understand that, but do yourself a favor. Lift half of what you normally do. Now, a lot of us go, well, that's a waste of time. Well, here's your options. You can lift the normal amount of weight that you normally do. Like, let's go back to the use of the illustration of a bicep curl. You sit down to a machine, let's say you're curling 50 pounds, and you go to a machine and you can't get the right biomechanic positioning, so you compensate, and then you end up ripping long-headed biceps off your shoulders. So now, because you didn't reduce the weight, you used a machine that put you in a very specific range of motion that wasn't conducive for your mobility. Now you've pulled long-headed biceps off the attachment. Now we have to deal with an injury for 6 to 8 weeks. All because a mechanical machine is going to force you into a range of motion that may not be conducive with your mobility. Another one, and this is, I get into a lot of online debates about this, is the Smith machine at the gym for doing squats. I always say, if you can't do a legitimate squat, keeping your head over your spine and then your spine over your pelvic girdle on the way down, why would you want to use a machine that's going to purposely have you leaning forward, right? So if I'm sitting here and I'm doing a squat and the first thing that happens is my butt goes out, my head goes forward, well, now I'm just increasing the risk of the vertebrae literally pushing and slipping the disc right out from in between the vertebrae. Why? It's just all about leverage and mechanisms. What I would prefer you to do is go up against a wall, take a fit ball, put it in between your bum and your small of your back, put dumbbells in your hands, and then do a squat down the wall where you're keeping your head over your spine, over your pelvic girdle, and you're isolating the quadriceps, which is the group that you're trying to strengthen. What you're doing is you're getting the power, removing the risk of injury. Because if you can't go up and down the wall using a fit ball because of biomechanical limitations, why would you want to add weight to it? That's first and foremost. But if you can keep your head over your spine, over your pelvic girdle, and go up and down the wall, then adding weights is going to increase the strength and do it at the minimization of the risk of an injury. I say with my clients all the time, there's only two things that's going to slow down your incremental improvement: getting sick or getting injured. So for this reason alone, I try to stay away from all machines just because of the lack of bioadjustability. If you have a limitation in a joint, elbow, wrist, shoulder, ankles, knees, why would you want to go into a machine that's going to force you through a range of motion that may actually cause you to get injured? And I'm not here to create a firestorm. I know there's a lot of people out there that use machines. I know some of you may actually be employed by those companies. I'm just asking you, in my opinion, if I was going to make a company where machinery was part of my business, I would add even a greater level of dynamics on how you can adjust it. Now, I know a lot of times people don't like that. They get in the machine and there's 5 or 6 different ways that you can adjust it to fit your biomechanics. That's why I stick to free weights. Just keeps it simple. In fact, I tend to do the lion's share of all of my strength work on a fit ball or on a BOSU ball. I can do flat bench, I can do incline, I can do shoulder presses, I can do squats, I can do every large muscle group and every small stabilizer group using a fit ball. And the reason why I do that, reduces the risk of injury, keeps you in the game longer. So hopefully that clarifies why I don't recommend fixed machinery for strength training. If you happen to have a question like this, please do me a favor. Don't hesitate and send me an email. contact@coachrob.com. We are putting out a video every day here on YouTube, so please subscribe, turn on the notifications. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.